Welcome to episode number 23 of the Video Game History Hour, presented by the Video Game History Foundation. Every episode will be bringing in an expert guest or two, someone who's done their research or lived through it and has an interesting story from video game history to tell. My name is Kelsey Lewin. I am the co-director of the Video Game History Foundation, and I'm here, as always, with Frank Cifaldi, the founder and co-director of the Video Game History Foundation.
Our guests today are Kev Bayless and David Wise, formerly of game developer Rare and currently teamed up on a new venture called DK Creations. Kev recently published an editorial on Video Games Chronicle called I Was a Lead on Dinosaur Planet, and this week's leak brought back great memories. This editorial revealed some never-before-known information about a game that underwent quite a few changes before it was ultimately released as Star Fox Adventures, and it's something of a holy grail relic among Rare fanatics, I would say. So it was cool to see. Gentlemen, welcome to the Video Game History Hour.
Hello.
Thank you, and hello.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Thank you for being here. So let's just start with the basics here. What was Dinosaur Planet? What is it we're talking about here?
Dinosaur Planet was a platform-based adventure game that originally started out as an N64 project. I think we began working on the title immediately after we finished working on Diddy Kong Racing back in the 90s. Was it the 90s or was it the early 2000s there?
The late 90s, it went from 97 to 2002, I believe, or something like that.
So back in the days when you could see the triangles in all the games and the blurry textures. And so we decided to make something that was going to be like an epic, sprawling world. And the idea was, I think maybe Jurassic Park has just got us more enthused about dinosaurs. But I can remember there was a film, was it Dragonheart, with Dennis Quaid in it? Remember that one, or are you guys too young for that?
Are you asking us?
Just for the record, because this is audio only, but we are on video right now, everyone just shook their heads at Kevin.
Okay. Well, I remember the film. It wasn't a brilliant film, but the dragon was amazing. And I remember they were boasting in the special effects magazine saying that the dragon's head was more polygons than the whole T-Rex in Jurassic Park, etc. And we got sort of, I don't know, a couple of hundred polygons to play with, a few hundred triangles to play with for our characters. And I said, I want to get these textures so it looks like Dragonheart, which was a bit ambitious.
I was going to say, who did the voice for the dragon? Was it Sean Connery? Was it that?
It was the late Sean Connery, yes.
Yeah, in fact, I remember the film there. There we go.
I remember this now as well. Okay.
Yes.
I haven't seen this, but there's talking dragons in it.
Voiced by Sean Connery. Odd Sean Connery dragon. Yes.
That's right. It's definitely worth watching.
He dies.
I can see why this inspired a video.
Did you just spoil Dragon? Wow.
No, nobody ever
just
died.
Out of nowhere.
He didn't die. I just saved you an hour and a half. Anyway, we wanted the dinosaur-based
Well, I'm not
game
watching it now.
that was going to have the detail of Dragonheart, but on the N64. And they say it was quite ambitious project. And we had, as I said, recently finished on Diddy Kong Racing, and as a test, we took one of the characters, and it was the tiger character, Timber, and we had him running around on a level, which was a quite barren landscape, but it was all cliffs. And the idea was he was going to be doing a lot of rock climbing, and so he was dressed up like a little adventurer guy. And I think he was supposed to be a time-traveling tiger because we wanted to give him a bit of an identity, and this is why he was going to go back into prehistoric times. And it sort of just went on from there, and it sort of expanded as the team got more and more people involved on the project. The ideas were coming forwards, and we got better artists and more software engineers and more tools, and the game just started to grow. And so we always had quite ambitious sort of plans for it, but we never knew that it was going to end up being Star Fox Adventures. It was never intended. That's just something that happened.
So let's circle back to that, because I think it's important maybe to establish, where the both of you came from in terms of, getting to a game like Dinosaur Planet. You mentioned that you had both worked on Diddy Kong Racing just prior to this, but both of you had started at Rare, I believe in the earliest console days, right?
Yeah, we both started working on the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System. So that's a couple of years ago now, that one. And it was quite basic, really. So that's where we honed our skills on these very basic consoles and trying to stretch the technology as far as we possibly could.
It was Slalom was your first tune, wasn't it, Dave?
It was Slalom, that was mine. What was your first one, Kev?
My first graphics I produced were for Hollywood. Wheel of Fortune. A little bit. I did some prizes on Wheel of Fortune. So it was a quiz show, and I got like an 8x16 character block to draw. New fitted kitchen or Porsche 911, and so that was my first exercise when I first started working there. Yeah,
which was a really silly feature of that game, because it's like you play this home version of Wheel of Fortune, and it just randomly assigns you a present, right? Like, you got this car. Cool. You got a tile of a car from Kev Bailey.
In the virtual world, you had a new.
It'd be cool if it had like a trophy room or something.
So you didn't draw so you weren't on Slalom, so you didn't draw the steers well defined behind then.
No, I'm a little bit younger than Dave, so I was still at school while Dave was working on the music for that, and I began working there when I was 6. I'd left school at the age of 15 because I was quite late for my year, and I went to college for a brief amount of time, and it just wasn't what I wanted to do. It was basically everything I was just doing at school. And then I was lucky enough to see an advertisement in the local newspaper for a company called Rare Limited, who were looking for new artists. And so I joined, and I can remember seeing Dave come upstairs one day with his long hair and his frilly shirt with a disc giving the latest tunes that he'd written for, probably would have been for Wheel of Fortune or something like that. And so, yeah, he was, you'd been working with him for a little while, hadn't you?
I had, yeah. I started when I was 19, so still fairly young, not quite as young as Kev. And took it from there. But I had a slightly different story, because I was discovered in a music shop and taken from there to work on video game tunes.
Wait, what does that mean?
Cool. That's like the dream. Get discovered in a music shop?
I guess so. It was better than working in a music shop, that's for sure. Because that really is, I don't know, it's like being rescued from the gutter.
So you mentioned always trying to sort of push the limits of this hardware. The one that comes to mind to me that I'm pretty sure both of you were on is Battletoads. Kind of, I think of that as
Yes.
You can tell me I'm totally wrong here, but I think of that as Rare's sort of like statement on the NES in a lot of ways. Like, here's what we can do with this system.
Yeah, it was very varied game, wasn't it? It had like 10 different games in one, really. It was a beat 'em up, a shooter, an action platformer. It was like you say, that we wanted a mascot for the company. Because prior to that, when the company was called Ultimate Play the Game, which was a very, very well-known company in the UK for producing games in the 80s for the home computers like the Commodore 64 and more prominently the ZX Spectrum. I think you had it over there. Was it called a Timex or a TR? I can't remember what it was over there. It was rebranded, but it was they had their own character, which was quite popular, which was Saberman, and a few other characters. But when they started Rare, I think they wanted something new, and we'd been doing a lot of licensed products for a lot of different film companies, doing a lot of conversions and things like that to sort of get reputation built up. And I think it was around about the time that we got Beetlejuice and the Batman movie came out with Michael Keaton. He was all over the place, and we had this So I remember somebody was showing us a slideshow. We'd got all these slides for all of the merchandise for Batman or Beetlejuice. One of the two, it was either one of those two films, and we were watching this slideshow and saying, "Look at that! Look at the bread spread and the curtains and the spaghetti and everything that this company that was like promoting the merchandise. We wanted to do something similar. This is, well, we can't do that without a product. We need a mascot, and so we'll put a game together which is using our characters." And I always feel really geeky when I say this, but when I was a kid, I was really into nature, and I used to just sit there on a rock at the bottom of my garden looking at my pond, and I was just fascinated by frogs and toads and stuff like that. And so when Tim asked me to draw some characters, and we'll try and get something, it needed to be an agile character that could leap around, and we wanted some combat in there as well. And I was quite into martial arts at the time, and so I drew all of these frogs on a lily pad holding nunchucks and just sort of tackling whatever else was coming out of the pond. And I called them the amphibians, spelt AMPHIBUINS, I think, amphibians. And Tim's looked at it and said, "Nah, we're not going to do this." And then we took on another guy who was a storyboarder and an artist who was also a very, very good writer. Yeah, and well, Guy and Tim and myself, we started putting together just the scribbles and the story, and then there was a piece of paper, and I know it had Battletoads written on in the center. And I can remember Guy always saying, when this is big, we'll look at this piece of paper and we'll put a circle around the word that says Battletoads. And I don't know how many other names we came up with, but it worked. And it got compared to the Turtles because the Turtles were popular at that time, and I wasn't a comic book fan. I knew nothing about them. I can remember when I drew them, we did have a comic book guy. I remember Trevor, Dave. Trevor Hill, wasn't it? Trevor?
Yeah.
He was a big comic book collector, and he says, "They look like these." And he had this, one of the very early issues of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic. And so we tried to steer it away from that, in that we gave them the appendages when they gave a punch or a kick, their fist grew or changed into something that was quite dangerous. Or I think we also had the story. It was more of an intergalactic based story rather than ninjas in sort of a streetwise environment. And they were the three guys that were going to be the Toads. I can't remember what their names were now. They were somehow catapulted into this cyber world, and that's how they became the Battletoads. And it was a different kind of story, but there were obviously comparisons because they were amphibians. But
yeah, and just as a player, I had no insight into the creation part, of course. But what was fed to me was the marketing arm from Trade West. Was the publisher here, Leland Corporation, guys. And, the marketing was essentially like, I don't remember the wording or anything, but it was like, forget them turtles. Here's the toads. So I always assumed that that's literally where it came from. Like, I almost feel guilty.
I've never heard that. What a slogan. I never heard that before.
I don't think that's literally it, but there's definitely some marketing that
they leaned into it.
They leaned into to like, these are better than the Ninja Turtles. So I'll try to find that for you, actually, because we probably got that in our files.
That'd be funny. That would.
Over here, they were the Hero Turtles. We weren't allowed to say ninja.
That's right.
Right, yeah, because, well, I mean, explain to us if you know, like, what was with the ban on ninja in the United Kingdom?
I think didn't we? I think I remember buying a T-shirt with the turtles on, and they all had their weapons. And didn't they change? Or didn't they remove some of the weapons because they were like blades? I can't remember what they're called. The long knives with. I used to know all the names to all this stuff.
If the weapons are pointy, that's not okay. Is that what it came down to? Like, nunchucks are okay, but if they're pointy, then
the censorship in the UK must have been slightly different.
It was. So they were very worried about gang culture and knife crime and things at the time. They still are, and it's got a lot worse. So